I was going to make this a proper video, but with situations like these, the way they happen, they change so quickly, and the facts change. And by the time I, get a proper video out, I might be giving you outdated information. So I did make a video about the air raid drills last week, and I touched on what I'm going to talk about a little bit last week. So I don't want to repeat myself too much. I'll try not to anyways. But as I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen in the news, is Nancy Pelosi, I don't know how to pronounce her name, a high-ranking American government person's coming to Taiwan. And that has made China very, very upset. She's supposed to come to Taiwan. I'm not really sure if she's actually coming. It's going to be an unofficial visit. It's not really all that uncommon. It happens. Hey, Alan, by the way. It happens. It's usually unannounced, so that way China doesn't make a big deal out of it. By the time anyone finds out that any American government people were in Taiwan, by the time everyone finds out, they've already left. So what's the situation? Because we had the air raid drills last week, and everyone was kind of freaking out. It's like, oh, China's coming, blah, 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 air raid drills. They happen every year. And now Pelosi's coming, and now again, the conversation sparked up again. Oh my God, China's coming. But this one's interesting. This one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit unique, because this time around, I've been getting a ton of messages, as usual, when something like this happens. That's not unusual, getting a ton of messages from usually foreigners. They watch the news, and the news sensationalizes everything and convinces the public that China's attacking, and so I get all these messages. What's unique, though, is that this time around I'm getting messages from my old Chinese friends in China telling me that I should leave Taiwan, because their state media has been, sorry, let me just try and not get hit by a car while I talk to you here. Their state media has been selling this idea of an invasion, which is pretty crazy. They have never gotten messages from Chinese people like that, because, to be honest, Taiwan doesn't really come up in conversation very often. It's just not something that happens in daily life in China. They don't really think about it very much. But now their state media has, I'm just going to pull my mask down. Sorry, it's really hard to breathe and walk and talk and think at the same time. Their state media has really tried to sell this Pelosi situation to the public, to the point where people are actually talking about it now. And I had one of my best friend, she was chatting with some guests at the hotel she works at about this situation. That's not a dead end, is it? I'm just exploring this neighborhood. And they were talking about a potential invasion of Taiwan, which is interesting. And so she told me, I really think you should leave, because I think there's going to be a war, which is, I guess it's kind of sweet that she still cares about me, like that I still have Chinese friends who care about me. I guess it kind of sucks, because it takes a potential invasion for them to talk to me. But anyways, I found that interesting, and I've probably gotten like 100 messages or so on Instagram from you guys asking if now do I change my mind? Do I think that there's going to be an invasion now? Now that Pelosi is coming, royally pissing off China. China asked America to do one thing, not to do one thing, and they fucking did it anyway. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword, her visit. Obviously, her visit is going to provide some much needed legitimacy to Taiwan. I also apologize for the shaky camera. The front-facing camera does not have stabilization. So her visit provides as much needed it legitimizes Taiwan. But it's kind of annoying for the citizens here, because, obviously talks of invasion pop up again, and that's not so fun. So, double-edged sword. I have not changed my mind at all. I still don't think China will invade. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, they're not ready. They don't seem to have the capability of doing that yet. Number two, this doesn't really seem like enough of a situation to justify an invasion. It's kind of a stupid reason, really, to justify an invasion. Really what this is just like political dick swinging and military flexing, basically. And another reason, Real Life Lore put out a really good video a few days ago that explained China's situation very well, I thought. And it had to do with their energy consumption. And so China basically relies on importing its energy because it can't domestically make enough energy for the amount it consumes. Obviously, China consumes a lot of energy, and I think it was something like 80% or a lot of their energy is imported through the, what is it called? The Malacca Strait or something. It's southwest of China, just southwest of the South China Sea. And basically, the running theory here is that, sorry, I'm just giving my other hand a rest. I hope this doesn't look weird. Oh, hey, Dion, thank you. Foreign correspondence, Prozzy, where is your helmet and army gun greens? Yeah, I know, right? No, life here in Taiwan has gone on very much the same way it always has. Everyone woke up for work, everyone stayed in traffic, everyone checked in at work, everyone did all the exact same shit that you guys probably did from whatever country you're watching from. So yeah, I'm not worried. But anyways, back to the energy thing. That's a big problem for China because the running theory is that, let's say they did attack Taiwan or invade Taiwan or did something provocative, then all America would have to do is blockade the Malacca, I might be getting that wrong, but might block that strait where all of its energy comes from. This is a big problem for China, and they need time to sort this out, and they are. So they need ways of getting energy into China that doesn't use the South China Sea. Okay, and so what they're doing is they're building a lot of pipelines from Central Eastern Asia, so like or Central Western, whatever, like Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. There's a lot of energy-rich areas there, and they can pump in all of that energy through Xinjiang in towards more of eastern China, where it's more populated. Sorry, this is really long and complicated. So Xinjiang you might have heard of because that's where the Uyghurs are, and that is where the genocide is happening, supposed genocide. There's a lot of people denying it. Depending on who you talk to, it sounds like it could be, you know, the Holocaust of modern history, which is really sad. And the reason they're doing that is because they need absolute control over the Xinjiang region because that's where all of their energy is coming from, which is very important to them. The other thing they're doing is claiming most of the South China Sea with the 9-dash line. What they're trying to do there, this is what experts think anyways, is they're trying to get as close to the Malacca Strait as they can, so that hopefully they can push the American Navy away from that region so they can't be blockaded. And so they simply haven't had time to solve that issue yet. Once they do, then maybe I'll change my mind. You know, once they sort out a way to import the amount of energy that they use, which is like so much energy, you know, then they might actually have the cards to play against Taiwan. Who knows? There's obviously a lot of other reasons. It would not be a war similar to the one in Ukraine. They can't simply bomb the shit out of Taiwan. That's not it. Taiwan is way too urbanized, and there's a lot of important infrastructure that China needs that they can't destroy. So TSMC is obviously a huge factor here. They created what's known as the Silicon Shield. You know, Taiwan basically supplies the world with its electronics, with its semiconductor computer chips. Without Taiwan, it would take like an unbelievable amount of time. It's getting really dark. It would take the world an unbelievable amount of time to recover from that, especially China, and they know that, and so, you know, they don't want to make, they can't just accidentally, they can't make that mistake of just like, you know, carpet bombing the island. Otherwise, obviously, it would take a lot less effort to claim the island. So there's a lot of reasons I don't think China will attack. This situation just doesn't seem big enough for them to justify an invasion, if that makes sense. I'm lost. You know, it does kind of, it isn't fun, you know, like hearing about everyone's theories. I think it's just like fun for people, you know. It's interesting for people abroad to sort of predict these invasion situations, or maybe it's just exciting, you know. World War III, blah, blah, blah. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think we need to wait for China to solve its energy crisis. And when they do that, like I said, yeah, maybe there will be some reason to be alarmed. I don't know. I don't think there's enough of a reason for people to be alarmist right now. I don't think there's enough reason for people to spread fear online and, just sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like sensationalizing the situation. Nobody wants war. Nobody wants an invasion. That would be terrible. I'm not going to sit here and romanticize war. I'm not going to sit here and say, to the last man and blah, 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 blah. No, I hope it fucking doesn't happen. War sucks ass, And it's not something I wish. I'm going to get hit by a goddamn car talking to you guys. It's not something I wish in Taiwan, so it's something I kind of wanted to stay away from talking about, which is stupid because now it'll be like my second video talking about this, so I'm being a bit hypocritical, but I just got so many messages and I got tired of replying to all of them, so now if someone asks me about the situation here in Taiwan, I can just refer them to this video. I also did see, I know there's a lot of people have been sending me the reports on Weibo, which is like Chinese version of Twitter, basically. And there are, hit me with a scooter. There are posts on there from the Chinese military of Chinese like beach landing exercises going on in Guangdong, Fujian province, I think it is. That's obviously scary, but they do those actually fairly frequently. There's a lot of videos being taken of like military drills and that kind of thing, but again, military posturing and all of that, it's nothing new. China sends units all around the country. That happens fairly frequently. I think it's just people aren't used to seeing that, because they never paid attention to it, and now that it's all over the news and they're seeing like tanks being like railed into the Fujian province, into the south, they start to panic because they're like, oh my God, but it happens all the time. Okay, if I think of anything else to say about the situation, I will, but for now, I will get into the comments and see what you guys are saying. Where are you based? I'm in Taidong. I heard, actually, that's interesting. I just read in the news that off the coast of Taidong and Hualien, and I want to say Green Island, don't quote me on that, one of the islands they spotted People's Liberation Navy. I don't know what the official name of the Navy is of China is called, but basically China was sailing warships like a little too close to comfort on Chinese East Coast. So I wonder if that must be a big topic of discussion in Taidong. Run, Brazzy, run like the wind. Again, I don't think there's going to be invasion. I think we're going to be fine, so not too worried. China doesn't need to invade Taiwan. They have many other options. They can just destroy an airport or block smaller islands. Yeah, I mean, like, there's obviously a few different ways they can do it, a few different things they can do. It doesn't have to be like a boots-on-the-ground invasion, but that's what everybody likes to talk about. What's interesting, though, is that my friend is like, we had a little bit of an argument because she said something like, I wish we had a solution to the Taiwan problem. And I replied, what problem? And she said, well, they, Pelosi will come to Taiwan. And I said, what's wrong with that? And she said, well, Taiwan is land that belongs to China. And I said, well, it hasn't belonged to China in a very long time, and it certainly hasn't belonged to, the People's Republic of China or the Communist Party of China ever. So, like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, she sees it as Taiwan as being like an unfilial son or an unfilial child who has abandoned its family, so to speak. And I replied, well, Taiwanese people simply don't see themselves as Chinese anymore. Taiwan has sort of relinquished its claim over China a long time ago. So that whole argument doesn't really make any sense. And she was kind of shocked to learn that. She was like, she asked me, she's like, even the older generation in Taiwan doesn't see themselves as Chinese? And I said, well, most of them are kind of dead now. And the ones that did come to Taiwan were fighting, they were fighting communists. They were Kuomintang, they were Waishangren, they were of a different political party. So they might see themselves as Chinese, but they certainly don't see themselves as communists. And, like that generation is quickly leaving us. And the younger generation just doesn't see themselves as Chinese in any way. I'm sure there's maybe some people who do. I certainly have never met anyone who sees themselves as Chinese here in Taiwan. People here just don't associate themselves with China or that country in any way. They seem to have created their own, what would you say, cultural identity. And she was shocked to learn that because I guess in some ways, Chinese people think that Taiwan is sitting here just waiting to get liberated, waiting to be reunited with China, and that couldn't be, that couldn't really be further from the truth. But I just found it interesting how shocked she was to learn that. Check out flight radar of Pelosi's flight. Doesn't look like she's coming to Taiwan. And you know what? Like maybe she won't. Like maybe she'll get diagnosed with COVID again and won't come. I don't think it's necessarily. I don't even know what the hell the point of her visit was. Like originally, I don't understand. Was it just to support Taiwan? Because although I guess it would in some sense, like I said, it would provide legitimacy. Like, what other reasons are you coming here? Because it seems to be causing a whole lot more problems than it is solutions. So, yeah, is your friend Chinese? Yes, my friend is Chinese. I have lots of. I don't have lots of Chinese friends, but I still have many Chinese friends from my days of living there. And I said earlier in the stream, they messaged me, asking me if I'm going to leave Taiwan because, they're very convinced that there's going to be a war in China. Prazi, if it will happen eventually, I wish you and all foreign YouTubers I know may consider to leave. Life is priceless, but as a Taiwanese, I will fight to the end. This is my home. Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously very noble. I think the big difference is that I have a choice of leaving and Taiwanese people don't, I wonder sometimes if you gave Taiwanese people the chance to just leave, no repercussions, you can just leave Taiwan and go live somewhere else, live in the UK, live in the States, live in Australia, live in Canada, somewhere where that's, not under the constant threat of a communist invasion. Would you take it? Would you abandon Taiwan and go live in peace, or would you stay and fight even if you had the choice to leave? I find that an interesting question to ask, but also a scary one because that would really test the level of nationalism or patriotism that Taiwanese people have. I don't think I should ask that question to anybody. It's kind of a rude question, isn't it? Okay, let's see. Are you in Taiwan now? I am in Taiwan now. And as you can see, no one is panicking. Tanks aren't rolling down the road. There's no sirens going off. There's no, life's going on. Like no one gives a shit about this. And again, like they can't care about it because like it's not like this is the first time that China has postured up and has said, "Oh, we're coming now." It's like, they do this constantly. So no one cares here in Taiwan. You still have to wear a mask? Yes, you do. It really sucks. Prazi, would you now consider yourself Taiwanese or Canadian? Canadian. My core beliefs and values are still very much in line with Western values. That's not to say that I disagree with Taiwanese values or anything like that. I don't hold them true to my heart. And I think there are fundamental differences between my culture and theirs. If Taiwan were to offer me dual citizenship, well, I'd consider it and become Taiwanese, I guess. I don't know. That's an interesting question. No one's ever asked me that before. Although, again, I also, by that same token, I don't feel any strong pull to my own country. I'm not particularly all that patriotic. I guess I can be proud of my country, but I'm not going to say I'm proud to be Canadian because I didn't do anything. I just so happened to be lucky enough to be born there. So I don't have any real strong ties to my home country. I love my country and all that, but be alert, that's the purpose of the drill. Yeah. What are the main differences in culture between Taiwan and Canada? I mean, there's so many. I think at its core, if you wanted to look at it, the fundamental differences, Taiwanese society, Taiwanese culture is unique on its own because it's such a collection of different cultures. It's traditional Chinese culture mixed in with a bit of, Japanese. God, what am I looking for? Not Japanese cultural aspects. I wouldn't go so far to say Japanese culture aspects, but there's certain Japanese influence on like things they do. So like, for example, Taiwanese people are very, very quiet in public. 70 NT from Jin An. Thank you for always supporting Taiwan. Ain't no thang. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So they're very, very quiet. That's, I think, would come from like the sort of Japanese society. So I don't know, there's a lot going on with Taiwan, but I think fundamentally speaking, Taiwanese people are collectivists, whereas Canadians and most Western culture, I think you can ask this question like, what's the difference between Eastern culture and Western culture? Because it's a bit too specific when you like talk about countries, because they're not even comparable. But Western people value the individual above all else, whereas here in a lot of Asia, they value the group above all else. So I don't know, I hope that answers that question. My teacher is half Chinese and Taiwanese, that's interesting. She doesn't like how the new generation seems to think, unknowingly or not, that to be Taiwanese is to take away the Chinese culture part. Opinions? Knowingly or not, that to be Taiwanese. Yeah, there's something sort of like, I think I understand the question, where like, if someone wants to consider themselves Taiwanese, then they have to strip away the Chinese culture because that comes from China, and a large part of being Taiwanese is just simply not being Chinese, so let's delete that part. I haven't really experienced anyone who's like willingly stripping away the Chinese culture, because if you do strip away the Chinese culture from Taiwan, then what the fuck do you have left? It'd be a bit hollow at that point. That might sound a bit harsh to say, but to some extent it's kind of true, You'd have to have, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with having Chinese cultural aspects in Taiwanese society, because again, you can always separate Chinese culture and the government of China, they're two separate things. Okay. Humans are so funny. They follow some folks on chairs and even give up their life. Okay. True Taiwanese values are very different from Western values. That is true. Will you go back to China to visit? I would love to go back to China and visit, but I just don't know that I'm like allowed in. I'd like worry for my own safety, Being a YouTuber in China is not a particularly smart idea. And me and C-Milk and my friends left under rather precarious situations. It felt very threatening being there. I didn't really like being stopped at the border every time I wanted to leave. It was just not a nice feeling of being there, but I would love to go back. I mean, a lot of people think that because I'm a YouTuber here in Taiwan that I have to hate China, and I think there are a lot of things that I disagree with about China, but I don't hate it. Okay, again, sorry. I'm gonna have to take a pause here to make sure I don't get hit by a car. Crossing this street in Taiwan, as you can imagine, is quite overwhelming, overstimulating, and I need to stop everything I'm doing just to be able to cross the street. Okay, I'm South Korean. I consider myself Korean, but I do not consider myself North Korean. Sure, we are the same race, but our culture, values, and traditions have changed to the point of, and then he's going to continue that later on. Is China the same today as the China of old? Some would say that Taiwan has more Chinese culture than China because of the Great Leap Forward. I mean, how do you weigh culture? When you say something like Taiwan has more culture than China, like how are you, there's a fucking word that I'm that's lost on me right now. Quantify that, how do you weigh how much one country has more culture than the other? I think it split and morphed into two different things. I think that's more what happened. I know that China did lose quite a lot of its cultural values in the Great Leap Forward. That part is true. But in large part, they are attempting to try and get it back, because they realized very quickly after the revolution, if you're going to strip away everything that's traditional from your country, then well, what's the alternative? What are you left with? And they quickly realize the answer is you're left with like hell on earth. You know, unheard of levels of poverty, mass starvation, on a scale I don't think we've ever seen in human history. So, yeah, I don't really know how to answer that. A lot of these questions are very, very deep. Is there anything else? Sorry, guys. You know what? See the house price still so high. It means no Taiwanese really worry about it's going to be a war. Yeah, I really want to get to these comments, but it's hard to do when I'm walking around. Yeah, well, I think it's been 25 minutes. I didn't want to make this too long of a video. How do you deal with cultural differences in the long term? Well, you learn and you grow and you figure it out and you realize that when you do this, then a Taiwanese person is going to think that, and you just slowly just get used to it. Or you know, you could always just, I sometimes feel that I'm a bit cut off from Taiwanese society in a large sense, you know, because, well, at my work, I'm not allowed to speak Chinese, obviously, because I teach children. And so that means I don't get to practice as often because I'm there all the time. And so it's very, very difficult for me. And then when I get home, you know, I hang out with foreigners. So, you know, I guess just how you deal with it is you just don't. Crossing the same street again, I ended up walking in a big circle. Sorry. Okay, I saw a super chat there that I want to get to first. KKT 500 yen, I think that is. Love the videos. Hope you'll be able to get a real motorcycle soon. Thank you very much. I'll put that 500 yen to a motorcycle fund. I also, thank you for saying you love the videos. That means a lot. I really hope I get a proper motorcycle too. I rode in China. My channel was like heavily focused on bikes and riding, and I would love to get a bike here in Taiwan, but they are absorbently expensive. Exorbitantly, is that a word? They cost so much money. You know, like if you want to import a motorcycle here, so I know we're getting off topic from the whole Pelosi thing, but I'm just answering your question. There's so much money. I simply just don't have enough to afford a proper bike. But thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Thanks again, Prozzy. I love Taiwan, and I hope you bring it to us. Does that mean you hope you bring videos to us? One way to bond, you mean bond with Taiwanese people, is playing rhythm machines. What? Dude, I'm sure you'll be okay. I know you're worried right now. I'm not worried at all. I would be too living there, but realistically, I highly doubt that China will actually invade. Yeah, I'm not worried at all. This whole situation doesn't matter to me at all. I think what will happen, if anything will happen, it'll be something like economic sanctions against America and Taiwan. Like, I think they already banned like 100 Taiwanese export companies, and you know, they might ban a certain fucking fruit. You know, it'll be something like that. There'll be a lot of military posturing. There'll be a lot of like sort of soft power plays at hand. But I would agree. I don't think that there's going to be anything militarily speaking. You know, aside from, you know, they might send jets into Taiwanese airspace, which happens like every day. So, yeah, no one cares about what, you know. Maybe they should. Who knows? Triumph Bonneville is about 15,000 Canadian dollars. It's about $40,000 in Taiwan. Yeah. The reason for that is import taxes are crazy, crazy high here in Taiwan. And so, you know, a bike that might be relatively cheap in one country could be extremely expensive here. So, Taiwan's enemies have always been inside, not just on the other side. I don't know exactly what that means. Yeah. Do you still meet lots of foreign students from, do you meet a lot of foreign students from Donghai? Yeah, a few of my friends have gone there or still do. A lot of them are learning Chinese or they're doing a degree there. And I would say, how the fuck did I get over here? I'm so confused. You know, I would say if you're someone interested in coming to Taiwan and you know, maybe you don't want to wait to get a degree, you know, you could always apply to study at a Taiwanese university. And it wouldn't exactly be, you know, you wouldn't be living in the lap of luxury. It's expensive. You could, I suppose, work while you're here. You could teach English on the side. And I think for someone who's young, you're in your 20s or your late teens and you want to become a student here in Taiwan, I think it's awesome. And I think that might be one of the only ways you can actually get into Taiwan because, again, the borders are still shut. Yeah, there's 335 people watching this. So that's pretty crazy. It seems like this, again, like I knew this was going to be popular because it's such a big topic. It's all over the news in the West. Surprisingly, it's all over the news in China. Normally I'm never surprised. Which is more expensive, China or Taiwan? Depending on where you are in China, that answer can vary, but typically speaking, China is a lot cheaper to live in than Taiwan is. Nothing surprised me with this situation. The words being used, the rhetoric, the fear, the whole feeling of, rising tensions, that doesn't surprise me at all. What did surprise me is the amount of news coverage it got in China and the fact that my Chinese friends were messaging me like worried about my safety and being like, they're very sure, that war is coming. And they all had the same opinion on that. And the reason for that is obviously the news is the media is state controlled. And so the media all says one thing. And when the media all says one thing, regardless of the source you get it from, of course, as a Chinese person, you're going to believe that. And so they're all very, very much convinced that war is going to happen. And I think to explain that feeling that they have, you would have to understand that like China was pretty like embarrassed throughout history. A lot of countries, a lot of people look down on Chinese people, on China as a whole. There's Chinese people spit, Chinese people eat dog, Chinese people blah, 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 blah. The government does this, the government does that, Tiananmen Square this, Tiananmen Square that. And like all of those things are legitimate concerns and should be legitimately called out. Don't get me wrong. But I think in Chinese people's opinions, no one seems to want to say anything good about Taiwan. And so, China. No one seems to want to say anything good about China. And so it's kind of embarrassing. And so they're constantly looking for ways of showing their power, showing China's strength, so to speak. And so, the media can really amp up the country with these talks of war and these like montages and rock music with Chinese tanks rolling by and Chinese special forces and training exercises. And it's really easy for them to spool up the nationalistic feeling that happens in China. They're very, very nationalistic people. There are virtually no, what would you say? There's virtually no dispute on the country. If you talk to Americans, a lot of Americans love America. They love their country. But there are some people who hate America and are Americans. They don't like the military-industrial complex, for example, and they don't like how involved America gets in other people's business and wars and global politics and all of that. So there's a discussion to be had on America's role in the world. Whereas in China, it's completely different. Like everybody loves the country, and there's only one party, so there's no real room for dispute. To the point where my friend said, I told her I was talking to her on WeChat, which is basically it's China's like social media app, like a instant messaging app. And we were talking on WeChat, and I said that a lot of people don't think that Taiwan is China, and she said, if you said that in China, if you said that Taiwan is not a part of China, you get punched, which is a pretty extreme thing to say. So they do feel very, very strongly about this situation, and I don't know. It's sort of a point of pride in China to consider Taiwan to be a part of China, and so it's very difficult to change their mind on that. They really, really believe that in their hearts that Taiwan is a part of China. Like there isn't even a question, and they're not very used to speaking about this. Because again, the conversation that they have around it is all one-sided. Everyone thinks the same way in China, that Taiwan is a part of China, so there's no real discussion to have. For them, it's a matter of fact. It's of course that's the case, from a Chinese perspective. And it's not often that they get to speak to foreigners about the situation, because obviously foreigners have a very different opinion. Not much of the world favors China. Most of the world, I think, I could be wrong. Seems to me that most of the world favors Taiwan in this situation. And so they aren't used to having this discussion. And it was clear to me that my friend, that when I was talking to her, she clearly had never had this conversation with someone with a different opinion. It was interesting to watch her try to sort of step around my points or justify the things that her country is doing. I was going somewhere with that, but I don't quite remember what it was. Okay. Why are the Chinese calling Taiwan as Chinese Taipei? Because it delegitimizes Taiwan, because it's called Chinese Taipei. And the only way that Taiwan can partake in international sporting events like the Olympics, they have to call themselves Chinese Taipei, or otherwise China would never agree to have Taiwan participate under Taiwan. So having themselves call themselves Chinese Taipei is a way of delegitimizing Taiwan. That's your answer. Prezi, what do you think of the Great Translation Movement? I don't even know what the fuck that is. Send me a video or something explaining it. My friend in Guangzhou asked me why I can't say good things about China. I want to say good things. Most of my life, even if I knew the PRC was in power, I had rose-tinted glasses because of its history. Yeah. That's because they're brainwashed. It's interesting that word brainwashed. My friend made the argument that I'm brainwashed. She said, she kind of got a little upset with me because, again, they are very nationalistic. They do really, really care about these things. She said, why can't you ever take our side on this? Why you're always on Taiwanese side? Why can't you ever see things from our perspective? And I don't know. It was an interesting conversation that we had. But yeah. Okay, well, anyways, there are a lot of people watching this. I really appreciate the high numbers. That's all. I don't want to ramble. That's all I really have to say in this situation. Just to wrap up, like I said, Pelosi coming to Taiwan, if she comes to Taiwan, I don't think very many things will change. There might be a few economic sanctions put in place. There might be some soft power plays at hand. I don't think there's ever going to be invasions. I don't think there's going to be a Chinese invasion anytime soon. They have a lot of domestic issues they have to sort out first before they're really sure they can take Taiwan, because they are not going to invade Taiwan unless they are fucking damn sure they can do it. And right now, they're not damn sure they can do it. Depending on who you ask, there's a varying degree of chance that Taiwan could survive the war. There's a varying degree of chance that America might enter the war. So depending on who you talk to, you don't know how that's going to go. And China just isn't 100% sure they can do it, and until they are, they're not going to make a move. No one in here in Taiwan is panicked. The reason I did this live stream walking around and not just sat in my apartment is one, it's obviously more interesting. But two, it's so that if you were looking behind me in the video, there's no panicking. You probably haven't seen like a single police car. Maybe you did, I don't know. But no one's freaking out. Everyone's just living their lives. All of this rhetoric of war and fear, you have to understand, is a large part of it is just the media. It's interesting for people to talk to. And obviously it's not just the media. Obviously, like I said, in China, it's obviously a big point of conversation these past few days. They truly believe that war is coming. So it's not all the media. And it does feel different this time around. It feels a lot more serious this time around. But I still don't think that's going to happen. Sorry, let me just get to Dion's comment. He left a super chat again. Thank you so much. Bring your friend to Taiwan for a holiday. Yeah, I would love to. That's something I really, really want to do. Ooh, and I missed another one. I really, really want to bring her just to show her that Taiwan can be its own country, separate from China, and in a way that isn't shitty. She's still my friend. That's where I have a lot of conflict. She's still my friend. She's still my best friend. I love her to death. And I don't want to be shitty to her. I don't want to bring her to Taiwan and like rub her nose in Taiwanese independence, because that's just a dick move. And that's why I have a lot of internal conflict over this because I do live in Taiwan, I do support Taiwan, but at the same time, I don't hate China. There are a lot of things that I disagree with, but I don't know, it's complicated. It's not just a one-sided black and white issue, if you know what I mean. Sorry, I missed another super chat. Let me just get to that really quickly. Anne, 330 NT, thank you very much, Anne. Your views on Taiwan and China are always great and neutral. Thanks for giving others the opportunity to know more about the actual situation. Support from Taiwan. Yeah, thank you so much for that super chat. I don't know that my views are necessarily neutral. I just try and leave the ideological extremists, you know, however you want to put that, views, like, I don't want to, I want to keep a level head. I want to look at things a little bit more objectively and try and see it from other people's perspectives, you know. I don't agree with the Chinese side to it, but I still like to talk to my friends about it and learn why they think the way that they do, you know, without trying to be a dick. I mean, I guess by disagreeing with her, I was being a bit of a dick. I mean, she did get, I don't know if she got upset, but, you know, she was messaging me after a whole night of talking about how amazing China is with her friends and how they're excited to have Taiwan back in the arms of China, you know. So she just came off the heels of that conversation to come and talk to me, who had a very different opinion. And I guess, I don't know if I could say upset, but I don't know. It was interesting. So, yeah, I don't think I missed any other super chats. Most foreigners become Taiwanese puppies once they arrive here. Pelosi is doing great. That is so true. I guess that's something to talk about before I go, actually. That's really interesting. A lot of, and I think this is also true of Japan, a lot of foreigners, when they come to Taiwan, they hop on that whole Taiwanese independence train like so hard. What the hell is that, man? Can you guys see that? There's like a dude in there just like tapping on a thing. I'm not sure what that is. It's some kind of ritual he's doing in his living room. That was interesting. You know, and in Japan it happens too. You know, there's always the famous weeaboos or whatever the fuck they're called. You know, people who just defend another country like so hard that it just comes off as kind of weird and creepy. You know, as much as I support Taiwan, I'm not like, I would die for Taiwan or whatever. You know, this is a political situation that has fucking nothing to do with me. You know, so I don't know. But yeah, I think that if you look at most, you know, foreign YouTubers here, a lot of them are my friends and a lot of them are really nice, but in order to get views, they have to sort of appease the Taiwanese by being like, my favorite, you know, insert blank here about Taiwan, or Taiwan's best, insert blank here. And I'll be honest, like, I'm guilty of it because I like to celebrate Taiwan. There are obviously a lot of good things about Taiwan, but I do try to mix in some of the other, maybe more nasty things that people don't like to talk about because it's uncomfortable or it can come off as rude. And I think there's also a general feeling here in Taiwan of delegitimacy or lack of cultural belonging. There isn't like a defined Taiwanese culture, and so it's a bit of a sensitive issue to talk about on YouTube. You don't want to be that one guy who goes to visit a country and just ends up trash talking it the whole time. That's really rude. Okay. Ghost month and he's still outside. That's true. I forgot. It's ghost month, so you know, I better get inside before I get eaten by a ghost or whatever. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you guys so much for joining this live stream. I will see you guys soon for another video. I think I should have one ready for this week. It's about Hakka culture. If you guys don't know what Hakka culture is, I'll explain it in that video. And I tried to figure out how Hakka culture is different here in Taiwan and China. I'm pretty excited about it. I learned a lot of interesting things in it, and I don't know how people are going to react when it comes out, but yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I hope that the tensions between China and Taiwan, you know, cool off a little bit, because it's not really nice having all these people message me worried about my safety and Taiwan's safety and being in the news for all the wrong reasons, you know. I really wish there was something Taiwan could do that's so amazing that it could be in the news for maybe a little bit of a better reason other than just the potential of an invasion. So yeah, enjoy your week, guys. Stay safe. Thanks so much for watching. Keep your stick on the ice. Feel feel like I haven't said that in a while. Stay positive. Bye-bye.